Hi, everyone. Sierra here again. Thanks so much for trying both the Q&A and the chat features. It looks like most of you have found where those go. You are all muted at the moment. We will pause for questions at several points through today's session, and we'll make sure to get you in whichever way you chime in on the chat, in the Q&As, or if you raise your hand, I will unmute you to ask the question. So thank you all so much for being here today. Again, my name's Sierra. I am the Newark's director at NAMT. I produce the festival and manage the submission process for the festival. I'm so excited to be doing this FAQ. It is like Christmas, getting to see all the scripts come in every year and all the work that comes along with that. So thank you for your work, and I'll give you a walkthrough about what we're doing here at the festival. So the goal for today is to give you an overview of the goals of the festival and our process, give you some specifics of our process, and answer any questions that you may have. I'll try to give you some tips and tricks of what we know generally works better. Again, we also recognize that we're in an artistic form, so your show might not quite fit in a specific box, but I'll talk to you about where some of those boxes are. We'll start here with a little bit about NAMT for anyone who doesn't know us. NAMT is a national service organization serving theaters all around the world. All NAMT members are musical theater producers. NAMT is a network to help these producers connect and make bonds to strengthen the field of musical theater. The festival was founded in 1989 as a place for our members to share works with each other. We've now been going for 30 years of the festival, and it has evolved significantly since our start. Today, we present 8 musicals and 45-minute presentations for an audience of over 750 industry professionals. We're looking for musicals at all stages of development, from first reading up to and through having multiple regional productions. In the short run, the festival's goal is to connect producers with writers so that our shows can continue their development trajectory. The long-term goal is to expand the musical theater canon, bringing new musical theater to audience members around the world. Our 31st annual Festival of New Musicals will take place on October 24th and 25th, 2019 at New World Stages in New York City. Important here, writers must be available to attend the festival and rehearsals in the week leading up to the festival. This is something that comes up for us every year, and we do require a huge part of what makes the festival special is about the in-person networking opportunities to the writers available. Something to say up front, we never take any royalties from our writers or ask them to pay for their participation in the festival. The festival is funded solely through sponsorships, grants, and donations contributed by government agencies, foundations, organizations, and individuals. Expenses that writers do need to be aware of are their own travel expenses if they're not New York based, orchestrations if they don't have them, and we do ask writers to provide their own demos, drop cards, or business cards to share with producers at the festival. So let's talk about what makes your show eligible for the festival. The musical must be complete and ready for readings, workshops, and/or productions. We will not accept shows with sections like, and here there will be a song about X. We need to see it or read it in some form. Of course, we expect all shows to still be in progress, but you must have a song on the page and not a description of what the song would be. You must have a demo that's an accurate representation of the music and style of the show. With demos, we recommend that the recording is a significant representation of the songs in the show that accurately highlights the breadth and depth of the score and lyrics. Our guideline is that at least 50% of the songs in the musical, not including reprises, is a good guideline. We have received less, we have received more. That's just what we suggest you shoot for. The demo should also be a good quality recording with clear piano or appropriate instrumentation and clear vocals. We recommend as much as possible that the singers on the recording are the appropriate vocal types for their respective roles. That being said, you can also do a hodgepodge if you have a couple of demos that were recorded by the composer, say, and then a few that have performers in the roles. You can send us what makes sense for you. You must have full underlying rights clearance of any pre-existing material used, music source material, etc., in the script. And you must be ready for readings, workshops, and/or productions at the time of the submission and available performance in October 2019 at the festival. The musical cannot already be licensed through a major licensing house. It cannot have been produced on Broadway. Shows that have had readings, workshops, and/or productions, including regional or off-Broadway, are still eligible. The musical cannot have already been submitted to the festival 3 times. Each show can be submitted 3 times for review by the committee. There's a special 4th time if a NAMT member makes a case for why the show should come back through. And the musical cannot have been presented as one of our main presentations at the festival previously. That excludes shows that have been presented as a part of our supplemental programming, like the concerts or cabarets. If you do submit a show that does not meet the criteria, we'll let you know, although it's good for you to not submit it in the first place if it isn't eligible. Please review our website for more information about our past programming. We also recommend you review the history of shows that have been presented recently and learn more about our membership. Talking about endorsers. To submit, you'll need an endorsement from one of our colleagues. Your endorsing organization can be any of the following: a NAMT full member, any professional theater company, so that's the non-NAMT industry member category. We define that as a company that's been actively producing theater for at least 2 years and compensates its artists and staff. A theatrical literary agent fits in that category. A commercial producer, any producer with a proven track record of producing musical theater, and a festival alumni writer are your options. We'll be showing you today, these slides you're seeing are actual screenshots of the application, so you know what to do as you're looking at it. You'll see here your step 1 is to name who is endorsing your application. For NAMT full members, the first 3 shows they endorse are free. The 4th and 5th are $25. Unless they have communicated with you otherwise, assume you're one of 1, 2, or 3, and it's a free application for you. You'll select that you are with a NAMT full member. You'll select which number submission this is for your member endorser. For NAMT associate members, there's a $30 fee. Associate members can endorse 2 shows. If you collect check, you will be asked to send in a check, and your application will not be accepted or processed until that check is received. For a credit card, you'll be able to pay at the end of the application process. If you're a festival alumni writer or your show is being endorsed by a festival alumni writer, you'll select this button, and you'll let us know which of these options it is. Festival alumni writers will have a $25 fee for second shows sent in, payable by any party, the theater or the writer. And shows that are endorsed by a festival alumni writer are free by the first member deadline in January, and we'll go over those deadlines in just a minute. Or a non-NAMT industry member. So these are professional theater organizations that are not a part of our membership. These are theatrical literary agents. These are commercial producers that are not a part of our membership. If you have any questions about that, we have a full list of our members on our website that you can take a look at. As far as deadlines go, we've got a great grid on our website that you can see. Our first deadline is coming up here, January 7th. That's the due date for, or excuse me, December 7th. That's the due date for other professional theaters or producers and theatrical literary agents with the $70 fee. There's a second deadline for non-member endorsers. That's December 21st. That adds a $15 late fee. If your endorser is a NAMT member, NAMT associate member, NAMT alumni writer, your first due date is January 7th, and your late due date is January 21st, which has an associated late fee. In terms of endorsers and what they actually do, endorsers who are part of the NAMT member category, just email me. It can be very casual. They just let me know that they are endorsing your show. If it's someone who's outside of our network, they will you'll have to ask them for a letter to be uploaded into your application. That letter can also be fairly brief, just explaining why they're endorsing your show and that they understand it's the only show they can endorse for the festival this year. Just to reiterate, a writing team cannot submit a show on its own unless they fit one of the categories endorsers. Every show needs to have an endorser. The endorsing organization will neither have an obligation to support the presentation financially, nor any right of ownership or control over the presentation if selected for the festival. An endorsing organization should only endorse shows that they have fully read, listened to, and are willing to advocate for, and on par with some of the best shows they've seen at the festival. We recommend building relationships with organizations. This is important for both you and our members, and is why we have the endorsement piece in place. New for 2019, if you do not have an endorser, we will provide an option for you this year. This will not be a guarantee to submit, but will facilitate a way to get your script in front of an endorsing organization. This is for writers who have not submitted to the festival before. Please email me for more information about that if that's you. Before we dive into the submission itself, I'll open it up for questions. I'm going to start with the ones in the Q&A. I see from Naomi, we are being endorsed by a NAMT alumna. What are the deadlines for submission? I'm sure I just answered this for you, but to say it again, your deadlines are going to be our January deadlines. January 7th, that submission will be free, or by January 21st with a $30 late fee, and the alumni can just email me. I have a question from an anonymous attendee. It says, we have a very large show, cast of 25. We could certainly tailor the 45-minute excerpt to work with a cast of 10 to 12, but in the submitted script, should we include in the ideal cast breakdown of 25 or the projected 10 to 12 NAMT cast breakdown? We'll talk about this in the submission half, but everything on the application should be about your show as is. We will talk about ways we might alter the cast as we talk about the cut if you're selected for the festival. Everything on the submission should be your show as is. Let's see if we have any other questions. I see in the chat, are deadlines posted on the NAMT website? They are. You'll see a grid based on endorser and which submission you are for that endorser. And back to the Q&A. From Pamela, I see I am a non-member writer. Did you say I can't submit on my own? I have an endorser who I believe is a member. Yes, if you have an endorser, you're totally set. You submit your own script through Submittable usually, but you have to have an endorser. That's what I mean that you can't submit on your own. Alyssa, I will chat with you about artistic boxes I described earlier as we actually go through the script. What I really mean is, for example, for the 20-page excerpt, we recommend you do the first 20 pages unless you're a non-traditionally structured musical and have some reason why it feels important to do 20 pages further into your show. Sometimes that's about what you choose to put on the demo. If you have songs recorded, but they're not higher quality, there are ways, we have certain policies that need to be met, but then you can just decide what makes sense for you and your project within those criteria. So I'd be happy to answer more questions about that as we go through. And Susan, I'm going to answer your question as we go through the application. Anybody else before we keep going? Yes, Susan, the qualifications for what makes an endorser are also on the NAMT website. I've got a question for Pamela. Is more weight given to submissions with casts, directors, etc.? Absolutely not. So shows that come through the festival, unless they have an attached director, and even then, we have a conversation with the team about who the right director would be for the show. We do not try to recreate casts. So if you did have a show with an attached cast, that would be a conversation about if that cast would appear at the festival. So there's no weight, and just generally, there's no weight given to a show more than another. Everyone's equal upon submission. All right, I'm going to move on. And I'm going to keep answering questions as we go, but I think I'm going to cover a lot of these for you as we get further into the process. So here's what the festival application will look like once you've selected who your endorser is. Here's a reminder again of the member deadlines: January 27th, 2019, NAMT member theaters, associate members, and festival alumni writers, January 21st, the late submission for those categories. We collect all of our submissions through something called Submittable. You'll create a login and can return to work on the application later. Um, we'll go through all the things you'll fill out in Submittable, but this is what you'll see at first. If you already have an account, which you may, you can sign in there. If not, set up your application or your login with whatever email you prefer. Just to note, this is an outside company. This is not NAMT. So if you lose your password or forget what email you've set up, you're going to need to go through Submittable to find that. But the great thing is once you've started an application in Submittable, it does auto save. So you'll be able to start and go back to it whenever you'd like. Here in part one, you'll enter a title for your submission. You'll let me know if it's based on anything. If your show is based on a property that's not in the public domain, you will need to submit proof that you have clearance from the underlying rights holder after filling out the application. That's very important, and we do track you down if you have not provided appropriate documentation there. If the show has gone by any previous titles, please let us know. And here in the writer credits, please include the writer credits as they should officially appear. Make sure you're clear as to who wrote the book, lyrics, and music. We return to this field on the application often as we get through. Then you'll have a spot to let us know who has endorsed the submission and the name of the staff member. You'll give us the email for that person, the mailing address. And if this is a non-member submission, you'll upload the letter from the staff member writing that endorsement. Next, we ask if there's a commercial producer attached to this musical. There's no wait if there is or isn't. We just get the information. If the answer is no, skip the question. And then we've got primary contact for the application. Please note, some shows have primary contacts that are not the writers. NAMT will always communicate with the writers in addition to someone who's in this box. Sometimes that might be the commercial producer or someone who's otherwise intimately involved in the development of the piece. So primary contact and writer one should be the same, and if they're not, know that primary contact and writer one will be contacted. The primary contact email, you'll only receive contact from us if there are questions regarding your festival submission until we get later in the process. The email address associated with your Submittable account will receive all status updates in regards to your application. So this is important. Primary contacts will only hear from us if there's a problem with the submission early on or if the show becomes a finalist. All of the emails letting you know if you're advancing in the process will come from Submittable to the person who set up the original account. So make sure that whoever that person is paying attention to what comes in to their email. Let us know if the musical's been submitted to NAMT before. Again, we also check this. If you've come in 3 times, we will let you know that you're not allowed to submit for a 4th. Then we ask you why you're submitting the show to the festival. This information has no effect on your application. We're just curious about what brings you to us and what you're excited about in terms of having your show be a part of the festival. In the writer information section, we ask that you include name, address, email address, phone number, agent information for every writer involved in your show. The writer in the number 1 position will be the primary writer contacted by NAMT if there are questions about the musical. And you'll also be required to include a 150-word or less bio for each writer. This is what that screen looks like. You can select all that apply if you're affiliated with ASCAP or BMI. And all of your other information. Please do be thorough. If you have an agent, please take the time and let us know that. That becomes important down the road as we do contracts with the selected 8. Here's what it looks like for writers 2 and 3. If you have more than 3 writers on your project, please list the remaining writers and their contact info and bios in that box. Here we collect information about the musical. You'll have a box, what's the genre of this musical? Please keep that in a fairly standard way. We have it as an open box right now, but we're looking to standardize that so we can search for shows based on that answer. You'll let us know about the source material for the musical, if it's wholly original and the authorship resides with the authors, or if it contains pre-existing material that's public domain, or that you have clearance from the underlying rights holder to use. We will, again, require you to submit the appropriate proof that the rights are cleared when you submit your application. This is where you will upload that. Whoop, going back. We ask you for a 100-word synopsis here. This is different than the synopsis that appears on your script itself. I think we say it can be a half page. To know about this 100-word synopsis is not a teaser. This is a way for us to use internally or remind committee members what your show is actually about. When we go into the meeting, we have a binder that will give the title of the show and this synopsis so they can trigger their memory as they've read 20 shows. So please keep that in mind. Let it be clear and accurate as a representation of your show. Here we've got more show information, number of acts in the show, number of principal males, principal females. These must be whole numbers. Preferred ensemble size, another whole number. You can use the other casting needs box to add any necessary specifics or clarifications about that. We'll talk about what happens if you've filled out your application incorrectly, but this is an easy one to avoid. Make sure these are all whole numbers. Also know that the preferred number of actors in your show is not necessarily the number of actors that would be in your show at the festival, as someone asked earlier. We cap all cast sizes at 10, and if you have questions about what that looks like, we certainly can talk about it. You absolutely should submit to us if you have a cast of 25. We had one of those shows this year, but when you're selected for the festival, we talk about what 10 cast version looks like in a 45-minute cut at the festival. Also in that other casting needs, that's a great place to let us know about other special casting. Children, animals, or puppets come up the most often, but you might have something outside of that. Or any clarifications such as doubling that do not fit in the fields above. And the ideal orchestra size, here you can enter either a specific number or a range. This number should be for the show and not what you would present at NAMT. I let you know what your orchestra size is at NAMT. It's a music director +2. In the ideal orchestra breakdown, please include the types of instruments in your desired orchestrations for a full production. Again, this is not for the NAMT presentations. If you haven't gotten that far, no problem. Just type me a little note there. Here we've got part 4, the development and production history of the musical. Here we've got past readings, workshops, and productions. Make sure to include the dates, locations, and type of presentation. Please include these again here, even if you include them in your artist bios. We will refer back here along the way. And upcoming readings, workshops, and productions. Next page, you'll list for us any awards, recognitions, prizes, or nominations the musical has received, as well as any awards, recognitions, prizes, or nominations any of the writers have received. Here we are at the script upload information. A PDF of the script will need to be uploaded to complete the application. Please make sure you follow the guidelines found on our website and on the application regarding the format of the script. To give a quick overview, and again, please read this carefully. All of this information is on our website. We will contact you if it's not accurate. We need the title page, which should have only the title on it and absolutely no other information. A brief synopsis, half page or less. Make sure this is a true synopsis and not a commercial for the show. Character breakdown in 1 page or less, track listings for the demo included, unattributed author's note if applicable, that's a half page or less. That would be a note about referring to the script over the demo lyrics, for example, or special instructions on how to read internal script notation. We need your pages to be numbered. We need your demo tracks numbers to be embedded in the script where each track is to be played when reading, and these should correspond with the demo you submitted. This is really important. Just broadly, the biggest tip I have for anyone at an FAQ is to think about the experience of the person reading your show. When we say embed that demo track number, I just mean if you have, say, song 2, but it's really demo 1, listed in your script as the song title or song 2, however you've notated it, but then next to it include demo track 1 so that the reader can easily find which song they should be listening to. And again, very important in this script, it must be a complete script, all scenes, songs, and lyrics on the page. The script cannot include writer information, agent information, production history, previous cast information, or award information. We collect that in the application and not on the script because until the very end of our process, none of our readers get your names or information about the show. Script excerpt. Here's the script upload, actually. Let me show you that. It gives you a little bit there of what I just said, and the acceptable file type is a PDF. And here we are at the script excerpt. So round 1 of our festival process, all of the readers are reading 20 pages of your script. As I've said, we've heard from our readers that generally speaking, the first 20 pages of your show are the preferred pages for readers. However, if you are not a traditionally structured book musical, you might find that you need to do something from a different part of your script. Feel free to do what you want and pick the 20 pages that you want, but do know that you don't need to get creative here. The first 20 work for most shows. Make sure that in that PDF of the script excerpt, it complies with all the formatting guidelines for this full script upload, including that synopsis, character breakdown, author's note, etc. So your script should have all that information, and your script excerpt should also have all that information. If you choose to not upload an excerpt, the subcommittee will read the first 20 pages of the script automatically. We made this change to allow you to pick the 20 because we want you to pick what you feel is the best representation of your show. So keep that in mind as you make your selection. Here we've got the demo track upload. We ask that you upload all of your demo tracks to Submittable. You'll be asked to upload the first 20 tracks individually, then upload a zip file of the entire demo. This is to ensure that we have your tracks in the correct order while people are evaluating. If you have more than 20 tracks, we'll pull the remaining tracks from your zip file. Please also make sure that you're careful with the metadata in your demo. Pull it out, remove your names. If you open it in iTunes or another application and you see your name, clear that out of there for us. Otherwise, we will contact you. This is what it'll look like when we ask you to do the first 20 tracks. You can do track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, all the way to track 20. Acceptable file types are MP3s, MP4s, WAV files, and AAC files. We'll do an optional diversity survey. You can fill it out or you can skip it. It's absolutely your choice. This is what you'll see at the very end of your application, almost done. We suggest you go back and proof your answers. Once you do submit to us, we have to unlock it to allow you back in. So let us know if you need to do that, but do take a look here. Once you're ready to complete it, you'll check that you certify the above information is true. You'll let us know who filled out the form. If you've selected credit, you'll find a screen to pay for the fee. And you'll see this, finished, press submit. Need more time, save that draft. Accidentally quit, the form will have auto-saved. If you have errors in your application, it'll look something like this. They'll highlight red and let you know where a field is required. It'll let you know if you've exceeded the maximum word count, or don't have a valid email address, or have filled out something like the principal number incorrectly. If you see this page, you have successfully submitted your application, and that primary contact will receive a confirmation email. All right, I'm going to stop here and answer the many questions I'm sure you have about this. So I'm starting on the Q&A. From Wendy, what are the rough dates we'll need to be available if our musical is selected? I'm going to take a look at my calendar, but with the festival at the end of October, you'd need to be available if you're New York based, really in those 2 weeks before the festival, ideally. And if you're out of town, we can condense that time to about a week before the festival. So those dates for next year would be from around October 14th through the 25th, and we could shorten that if need be for your travel. I've got a question from West. Hi, West. West's show has several composers and lyricists. Must all the composer lyricists be present at the festival and rehearsals, or is it okay to only have the lead writer and writers? West, I would be happy to chat with you offline. I think only the lead writers is necessary. If you have, for example, a show where every song is written by a different composer, we could sort out what makes the most sense as opposed to requiring every one of those composers to attend. As long as you're able to adjust or make changes in the room, you'll be fine. Oh, and another note on Wes' question, and also it is very important that the writers who are representing the show are present at everything, so we could talk about what that looked like. I've got a question from Pamela. One of the song copyright lists is an original poem, the poet's name, as based on. Do you need his name as well in the application? Pam, I'm going to try to unmute you and have you ask this question for me just so I understand what you mean. It's not letting me unmute you for some reason. Oh, there you are. Pam, can you hear me? Pamela, I'm going to answer your other question. If you're sorting out how to work your microphone, I have you unmuted so you can hop in whenever you need. Pamela also asks, I've recorded songs, plus we have also recorded soundtracks without lyrics. Can we use that instead of having someone play the piano? Let's talk about that, Pam. All of your demos should have the music as well as the lyrics, not as opposed to submitting something that's just the soundtracks without the lyrics. Is that you, Pamela?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yay, okay. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, so in the first question, I was trying to type fast so I wouldn't miss any of the other things that you were saying. So
Sure.
I apologize. One of the songs, and possibly more of the songs, based on written by another person, and so in the copyright, his name is actually in the Library of Congress as having written the original poetry, and then from there, somebody else is the lyricist for the song. So I didn't know if what I send you needs to be exactly what's on the copyright.
So when you include that person's information in the box where you let us know what it's based on. Does that make sense? Yep. So give us that poet's name in the based on section so we understand that that's going on, and then credit your lyricist as the lyricist.
As the lyricist. Okay. And then the other thing that I said was I do have complete soundtracks with, with somebody singing, and all of that. But we also separately recorded soundtracks. Well, there's like 35 tracks in each song. So he took out the singer so that if we just wanted the background music so that somebody else could sing, let's say a staged reading, then we wouldn't have to bring in an orchestra.
We do live music at the festival. We think for a lot of reasons it presents better for producers. So that would be a conversation down the road if your show is selected. For our purposes, please only submit the demos with singers.
Okay, fine.
Great. Anything else, Pamela, before I mute you?
No, but thank you very much.
My pleasure. All right, I've got a question from Dina. Dina, if we have a professional production scheduled that fell through, is this worth mentioning? Is there a place to mention this? Dina, you're welcome to mention that to me if it feels like you want to. You can mention that in the production history, but that's only for me, and it really doesn't have any bearing on the application either way. But I'm sorry it fell through. I've got a question from Danny. Danny asked, do you recommend we send more songs, or is fewer better? Just like is best 7 or 8 as opposed to 15. I would say send us what you have recorded that has a strong sound quality. We want to get as much music as possible that's available. Sometimes committee members will ask me if there's more that I have that I haven't shared with them. I always share what I have. That being said, if you have 15 songs recorded, but 5 of those aren't as high a quality as the other 10, you could consider that. But it's most important that what you send to us regarding demos is a good representation of the show. So for example, if you had 6 demos that were really well recorded, but they were all your ballads, and maybe a scratchy version of an up-tempo number, we'd still want that up-tempo number. So that's sort of up to you. There's certainly about what will showcase your show fully and in its best light. I've got a question from Anne, double checking about embedding demo tracks into the script. You do not need to create a massive file by embedding a clickable track. People will be accessing those demos through Submittable, but definitely write in and let us know what demo number the song number is. Got a question from Naomi. Naomi asks, our music supervisor is also MD and does orchestrations and is attached to the show. Does that present a complication to the application? Not at all. Just let me know that person, as we get further in the process, I will also get information about any attachments you have. That's totally fine. It happens not as often as director, but we would talk about that if your show is selected. And we'd certainly honor their involvement with the show. I've got a question from Marina. Marina asks, if some songs include musical interludes between verses where dialogue is intended to happen, is that acceptable or not recommended? If you are still going to record your demos for us, I would say some interstitial dialogue that feels really important to the song should stay in, but our readers let me know they generally like to listen to the song through without it stopping for larger sections of text. That being said, if you have it recorded and you've got a chunk of text in the middle, that's totally fine. You don't need to pull it out. Definitely feel free to add to that Q&A. I've got someone to raise their hand. Pamela, I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, excellent. I'm still not 100% clear on, mine is a rather large show as well. I know that there was another question about that. I've got, I think, 22 actors, and it's about 2 hours. So do I need to rewrite my show to make it 45 minutes and 10 actors?
Absolutely not. So all the shows we present at the festival are full-length shows. We do cuts of 45 minutes, mostly because it's a commercial for the show. We decide together what 45 minutes of the show we present and how we decide which 10 actors appear, if they're doubling or so on and so forth. And then we present that to producers wanting to make them excited to get the full script and read the other acts they didn't see. So definitely submit your show as is. The 45 minutes and the cast size limitations are things we'll talk about case by case as shows are selected. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Great. Feel free to raise your hand if you have a question. I've got a question from Susan in the chat. She says, shall I start my submission save in process while you reach out for your endorser? Sure, if you know who your endorser's going to be and you just need to reach out, I would say make sure you have an endorser for sure. However, our submission process is a bit specific and it'll take you some time, so I'd hate to see you do a full submission and then not have the endorser piece shake out. You asked if your song demos should be submitted through a Dropbox link. Nope, you'll upload those directly to Submittable. I can go back to that screen to show you if it's helpful. It'll look like this. And then you say you have a reference letter from an endorser. You can use that. That's perfect. As long as that person meets our endorser criteria, you'll upload that in your application and you'll be all set. I've got one question here from Marina. How is the music director chosen for your show if you're participating for the festival? All creative team members are selected in conjunction with NAMT. So do know this, we produce your show truly as if we were a theater organization producing the show. All conversations about directors, casts, music directors, etc., have NAMT final approval. Obviously, all those decisions are made in ongoing extensive conversation with the writers. For example, I would never hire someone that was not approved by the writers. But the music director, as well as the director, will be chosen in conversation. If you are the person who had the attached music director, we will talk about that. We try to honor all of those commitments. I've got a question again from an anonymous attendee. They're talking to a couple of potential endorsers. One is a non-member theater. If that person winds up being your endorser, am I the contact person? The writers should always be the contact people. Even member theaters, I'm not contacting them about the show once it's submitted. You, the writer, should always be the point person. I'm going to move on and talk about our timeline. If you have any more questions, you can raise your hand, put it in the chat. Oop, I see one for Martin, and then I'm going to move on. Martin says, you mentioned you like to make each piece searchable by genre. Don't worry about that, Martin, right now. That's something we're working on down the road to just be able to identify shows a little bit faster. You can stay broad on the genre that you put in now. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what our timeline is in case that inspires more questions, and then I'll come back to Alyssa's question that she just dropped in. So the timeline for the festival, the festival committee, the people reading your show, the main committee is made up of 15 NAMT members from across our membership, representing a wide range of producing needs. We specifically pick people that'll disagree. We want the large, super commercial organizations. We want the small and scrappy. We want things that are edgy. We want things that are new. We want things that are ready for production. So we also pick theater producers that are looking for things in those categories. On our website, you'll find a chart like this that gives you more information about the submission process and the cycle. For the first round, our subcommittee, so the subcommittee is actually larger than those 15, it's more like 40. They will read the 20 pages you select of your show and your demo, and listen to your demo. This round is less about content and more about the excitement that the subcommittee has about the piece. About a third of the shows from round 1 will move on to round 2. The second round, the committee of 15 will read full scripts and demos and do an extended evaluation. We ask them many different questions. Then they gather together in April to hold an in-person meeting to select the final 20 shows that will become finalists. So round 1, we've had in the last 2 years between 220, 240 shows. About 80 of those move on to round 2, and then 20 of those move on to be finalists. All shows from us will hear back. All shows will hear back from us by the end of May. So you will not hear anything from us between rounds 1 and 2, but you will find out between rounds 2 and 3 if you are either a finalist, one of those 20, or if your show is no longer in consideration. You will get that email from Submittable. So again, make sure that whoever makes that account and submits the original application knows to be on the lookout. If you're a finalist, we'll give you the opportunity to send an updated script or one sheet of changes that you've made. We also ask for a short artist statement, answering a prompt question. And new this year, we will ask you for a complete score at that time. Please make sure you have a score of just a piano vocal if you're submitting to us. For round 3, all 15 committee members will read all of the shows, and we'll meet again together in June in person to select the final 8. A reminder on this, we are looking for some of everything. We're looking for shows that serve all of our members in the industry. So we welcome whatever shape, size, wherever you're at in your development history, we're excited to receive your show. I'm gonna throw the deadline screen up here as I answer any lingering questions. Also feels like I've been doing a lot of talking, so if you want to raise your hand and ask your question with your voice, feel free to do so. I've got one from Alyssa. Do there need to be track numbers for every song included in the first 20 pages? Or if our better recordings occur later in the show, is it preferable to submit those later 20 pages? Alyssa, the great thing about this is we ask screening committee members to listen to full demos that are provided. So those songs that you feel might be better recordings should still be listened to. Definitely take a look if it feels like there's a good 20 pages that include some of those music. The hard part about doing 20 pages that's later in the show is that there's so much history that the reader doesn't have. That's why we found the first 20 pages are generally more effective. To answer the first part of your question, you do not need to have demos for every song included in the first 20, but definitely make sure you have at least 1, if not 2 of those demos in there. From an anonymous attendee, we have, if we have two options for an endorser, one who's an independent producer and one who's a former NAMT participant and NAMT member, is one any better than the other? In terms of if there's any weight that's different based on who your endorser, no. The only person who knows who endorsed your show is me, and I have no say in this process. I will say, if you are going with a non-NAMT member, the submission fee is much higher. It's $70 versus free. So that would be the one thing to think about there. I've got Pamela wanting me to restate the score requirements. She does not have a score yet. We would just need a piano vocal score in May if you were selected to be a finalist. I'm going to open the chat, see if there's more there. Looks like answers from Karin there. Worth saying here, answering this question about if the endorser must actually produce the NAMT presentation. Endorsers, again, have no bearing on the process beyond being the first step in the door. The only people who know who endorsed your show are internal at NAMT, and NAMT produces all readings. We have all of the artistic conversations with the teams and sort of full control over that. There's not outside sources producing at our festival. Do I have any other questions before I let you go? I should say that I am always available by email to answer any questions you have. Susan, I'm not sure how you can save this chat, but this will be posted online. So you will be able to watch the video of this if you need to refer back and have any questions. I'm also available by email, sierra@namt.org. That's down here on the slide right now. I've got Alyssa. Where is the list of members on your site? I'm looking under membership, but I'm not sure what to click on. Alyssa, if you want to shoot me an email, if I move my screen right now, well, actually, let me see if I can show you. I'm screen sharing.
I went ahead and sent the link directly to Alyssa, but for anyone who's interested, you can go ahead and find the NAMT member list under directories/registries, and then you want to go ahead and click on member directory.
Thanks, Karin. All right. Thank you all so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing all of your shows. Be in touch with questions, and I will look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.